Is the child feeling safe enough? Today, if you're giving this child feedback, how are they interpreting it?
When I go home, I sometimes don't want to interact with anybody. I just want my downtime, my book, my cup of coffee, sometimes TV time, and no human interaction. It honestly helps me.
And I feel like all of this masking takes such a huge effort. It's like being in a pressure cooker all day and the steam is building. At some point, the steam is going to come out.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Conversations with Speechies. I'm Pooja.
Hi, I'm Alicia.
Hi, I'm Merin. Today's episode is about a question we often hear from parents. Why is my child so well behaved at school, but when they come home, they completely fall apart? And sometimes we hear the opposite. My child is fine at home, but I hear a lot of complaints from school. Alicia and Pooja, what are your thoughts on this?
I think the most common answer that parents hear is that kids feel safe at home. I agree, but I feel like that's just one piece of the puzzle. So today let's discuss the different reasons why these behavior changes are seen. The most common reason that comes to my mind is that the home environment and the school environment is so different.
And also expectations, right? The expectations at home are very different from the expectations at school. And you mentioned school environment, Alicia. So I feel that the school environment for some children can actually get very stimulating to the senses. Like, say, bright lights, noisy and crowded classrooms, scraping of chairs. By the end of the day, I feel the sensory system can get quite overloaded for some children.
And another reason that's coming to my mind is masking. That is when children hide parts of who they are because they feel the pressure to act in a certain way. Neurodivergent children, especially, may consciously or unconsciously hide these parts of themselves by forcing eye contact or sitting still when their bodies want to move, or even copying their peers in order to avoid standing out.
Yeah. Or like they don't know what to do. So, or trying to fit in. And I feel like all of this masking takes such a huge effort. It's like being in a pressure cooker all day and the steam is building. At some point, the steam is going to come out.
Yes.
So by the time they go home, their capacity is over. This hard time that they're having at home might not be misbehavior. It might just be like they're done and it's pure exhaustion.
As you're saying this, I think kids also save their biggest feelings for
Yeah.
people they feel safest with. So when a child is having hard time at home, it does not necessarily mean that the caregivers are wrong. In fact, I feel that caregivers are constantly asking, what can I do to support my child better?
Yeah. Parents often beat themselves about that. They feel like, what am I doing wrong? Why is my child acting up with me?
Something that is really helpful, I think, is to give your child a no demand time. For example, when a child returns back home, you let them clean up, you let them unpack, have a quiet meal, just let them decompress and simply give them some quiet time.
I need that too,
Yeah, me
When
too.
I go home, I sometimes don't want to interact with anybody. I just want my downtime, my book, my cup of coffee, sometimes TV time, and no human interaction. It honestly helps me.
Yeah. Even for me, like after a long day at work, I don't want to be badgered by questions. I just want to unwind, just need some headspace. So for kids, of course, and it's relatable that they do want just like no demand time once they go home. But having said that, a lot of children benefit and thrive with the structure at school. So sometimes when they come home, the unpredictability of the home environment might also throw them off. So maybe having a visual schedule or pre-programming them that sure, like right now it's downtime. But after this, we can sit and do homework, then we'll go for a class, we'll have a snack, go down to play, so forth. That kind of pre-programming reduces stress because they know what's coming, and then they're more regulated.
Now let's flip the script. There are some children who are calm at home, but they often struggle in school. And that may be for various reasons. It could be social pressure, group work, handwriting demands maybe, and also sitting for long duration of time. And not every child can sustain these long hours of demand, and they may feel quite overwhelmed.
Yeah, school is so cognitively demanding.
Right. And in that case, what we can do is teach the child to advocate for themselves. Maybe teach them that they want to take a movement break or flexible seating options, walk around in the classroom while listening to the teacher. And educators can also help and support children by creating modified schedules that have these breaks throughout the day.
And I feel like as adults, one thing we need to be mindful of is the number of transitions that happen at school. Like when we come to think of it, there are at least 10 to 20 transitions in a day happening at school. Whether the child is transitioning from one class to another, from one activity to another, from structured time to unstructured time, all of these transitions takes a lot of organizing and planning. And for younger children, these executive functioning skills, this organizing, planning, takes time to develop. So a lot of kids struggle with that.
You're right. I have seen children struggle when switching from one activity to another. They find it really hard. And like you spoke about, like visual schedules and pre-programming at home, the same can be done at school as well. Telling the child that one last page to go or 5 minutes left before class, and then you get your movement break, or then you get some time to play with your friends. This pre-programming goes a really long way. And visual timers, there are so many fun ones available. Just using visual timers can help children transition effortlessly.
Yeah, like there's this cool one on YouTube with like this jellyfish, like it's this ultraviolet jellyfish timer, or like some animated timers, or that bomb exploding timer which you were using the other day. Yeah.
And I know that when I leave home from work, I like to look at the schedule for the day. What are the events that I have so that I can prepare myself mentally? And it's similar for children too, right? Another thing that's really powerful is that educators and parents can collaborate so that educators can create some structures at home so that there's consistency between school and home environment.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Let's get some perspective from one of our colleagues, Daya. She's the social emotional counselor at the Gateway School of Mumbai, and it would be really helpful to hear a few things from her. Yeah, so let's invite Daya for the same.
Hi Daya, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Marin. Thank you so much for having me.
So, Daya, we were just talking about how children behave differently at home and school. So, we have some questions for you.
Sure.
How can home and school come together to support the child better?
So I think first we have to understand that, the demands and expectations on children are so different at home and at school. And the reality is that they're both social settings. So you're going to look at different behaviors being appropriate or inappropriate in different settings. So I would say first, the parent, the caregiver, and the educator all need to come with some kind of clarity of what is their expectation. And then you need to communicate that to the child, because until and unless it's not communicated to the child, they don't know what to do. So they'll just end up doing anything. And that to us might look like inappropriate behavior, but it's more because they don't know. I think the other reality is that at school, everything is so consistent that there's rarely any ever free time for a child to do what they like. So when they go home, that's the time they pursue those hobbies, their interests. They also get time to bond with their family. And the reality is, even all of us, we need that downtime. And you can only do that at home. But like you've been saying, there are some children who are more comfortable at school and there's some who are more comfortable at home. And the reality is that it's circular, right? One will end up leading to the other. So it's good to create those healthy habits in both spaces. So I think for me, what I would say is the caregiver and the educator need to be very clear on what those expectations are for a child, communicate that to them, and be on the same page with each other. Because when everyone is speaking the same language to the child, it's easier for them to follow through.
Makes sense.
And that's great. Something as simple as just setting expectations and communicating that so that everybody's on the same page then.
And having the child's buy-in while setting those expectations as well, right? It is not
Yeah.
only that the parent or the teacher is saying you need to do this, but having the child's buy-in in terms of what is okay,
Yeah.
what is not
I
okay.
think that's the most important what you said, Pooja, the buy in. Because until and unless the child is not convinced, it's not going to work for sure.
And the mutual agreement, like this is what we expect. And maybe give some space to the children also to communicate what their expectations are or what they want.
Definitely. I would definitely flip it if you have an older child to ask them also, what is possible for them, what's not. Because maybe some of the expectations we are creating are not even realistic for that child. So they're not going to follow through. And then we're going to wonder what happened.
So, Daya, we've been talking about masking. And we spoke about like how children mask to try to fit in, or when they don't know what to do, they just imitate someone else. We spoke about how stressful that is for the child. So, when as educators or as parents we realize that a child is masking, what can we do to support the child?
I think the most important thing is to understand why is it happening. Because I think the reality is a lot of us are always looking for a solution. So whenever we see a problem, we're like, okay, this is the problem. How do we solve it? But we need to find out why is it happening. Only until we know why it's happening can we bring in the right intervention. So you kind of have to become a detective to understand why your child is doing what they're doing. So if you see your child and you see a lot of masking because they're scared to make mistakes. I think at that point, what I would do is I would start talking to them about growth mindset, right? Making mistakes is so natural, it's so normal, it helps your brain grow. Every time you make a mistake, a new connection is formed. That connection only gets strengthened that way. So I think once you understand why your child is doing what they're doing, then the intervention you put in will make sense. Otherwise, you'll just be trying random things. Reality is they'll work in the short term, but after 2 months, you'll be back to the same place. So I think the why is always the biggest thing.
So what you're saying is it's not like a band-aid fix-it situation,
Yeah.
but like you proactively teach and then you also think about why we're seeing what
Yes.
we are seeing.
I think teaching is always most important, right? You can never hold a child accountable to something until you haven't taught them. So if you haven't taught the child what the expectations are, I think we can't expect them to follow those expectations because they don't know what they are. That's the reality.
So, Daya, what are some non negotiables that parents and teachers can set when the child is having a hard time?
I think your non negotiable is always safety. So, whether that's physical safety or emotional safety. By physical safety, what I mean is, if the child is hitting somebody, so someone else is getting hurt, or even that child is getting hurt, that's your non negotiable. That's when you need to intervene to say, hey, this is not working. But I think something we don't look at enough is the emotional safety. Is the child feeling safe enough? Today, if you're giving this child feedback, how are they interpreting it? Are they interpreting it as, okay, I've done this, my teacher's telling me this, that means now my teacher doesn't like me anymore? Or do they see it as, oh, my teacher's telling me this, it's helping me grow, my teacher still cares for me, this is just one aspect. So I think that emotional piece is very important, otherwise, your child will not thrive.
I think I agree with you. Safety is a big piece and a non negotiable one at that. Thank you so much, Daya, for joining us. This was really helpful.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. So, the reason why children behave differently at home and school is because their behavior is shaped by the environment around them, the expectations that we have for the child, and the relationship of the child with different people.
And behavior isn't good or bad. it's just communication. It's just about communicating.
And what is very important to remember is that we need to respond to the why behind the behavior.
Guys, now that this is done, it's our no demand time.